Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there, welcome. Woo, the sun just came out. The fog is dissipating, not in my head, but out there in the atmosphere. And sun seems to be pushing its way out. It's, October. How'd that happen? It be October 1, 2012. So, I guess it's fall. Welcome to the program. I'm starting off a little slow today because, well, it's Monday, October 1st. So over the weekend, I had to go to the Rivers Casino and be a judge in a Best Burger in Pittsburgh contest. Now, that's not really rough duty. People just keep coming and proffering these amazing-looking burgers in front of you. I thought there were going to be over 12. Thank God there weren't. It was 8. And even if you take a bite or two of 8, you're doing some eating. I was so full when I got home. I thought I was going to die. I did not eat the rest of the day. But I have to tell you about 2 burgers. I do. Absolutely have to. The one that won and the one that came in third were out of this world, both. The one that came in second was 2, but first of all, my fellow judge was the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. And I have to admit, although I'd heard about the soup Nazi, I would never been a big I hadn't watched every episode of Seinfeld. I never, in fact, had seen the soup Nazi. And I thought, before I went, I should check him out so I don't appear to be a total idiot about who he is. So I did. And what was amazing to me is that guy was only on 2 episodes of, I thought he was like a recurring character. He was on twice. And it totally made his career. Now, it's not like you know this actor by name, because frankly, I don't think he gets many acting roles. But that one, he made the most of, and he's been living off of that for however long. I mean, years and years and years. He's there selling soup ladles with his that he's autographed and showing up and judging hamburger contests. Good God. But the soup Nazi bit was very funny. I said, it's how odd it must be to get essentially, of all the acting you've done, because he still is an actor, of all the acting you've done, this one role becomes iconic in the culture for whatever reason, and that's it. You know now what your obituary is going to read. Soup Nazi dies. That's it. It's an odd reality. He was a nice guy. So the first burger we had to eat, I just have to tell you this. They brought it in. It was so gorgeous looking, and they said, "This is a dessert burger." And I thought, "A what? What do you mean a dessert burger?" The answer was, it is made totally, almost, out of chocolate. I said, "You mean that it looks like a burger? You mean that's chocolate?" Yeah, it was chocolate. It was beyond belief. You bit into that burger and just gooey, rich, creamy chocolate just, exploded in your mouth. The cheese, I think, the so-called cheese, it looked like cheese, was passion fruit. There was a thing that looked like bacon on it, but was in fact, again, some really hard, wondrous chocolate. There was everything on this thing looked like something else, like what it should look like if it were a real burger. But when you bit into it, it was chocolate. Now, I got to tell you, there's some real cognitive dissonance that goes on, and it kept me from really enjoying it. Because if I'm going to eat chocolate, I'm not so sure I want it to look like a hamburger. Because when you bite into, you're biting into this big thing that says hamburger in your head, and instead you get, this rush of chocolate. It's very odd. But anyway, that was unbelievably good. That, by the way, if you want one, that's from actually the chefs at the Rivers Casino. It's their dessert burger. But the burger you've got to try, the one that won. And unanimously, there wasn't a judge there that didn't say, after they'd bitten in, "Oh, my God." From a restaurant I did not even know existed, but it's right here downtown. It's called Mélange. It's like across from the Byam Theater or around in that block. And this is just from me to you. You want an unbelievable burger. Now, it's spicy. It's got bite. But this thing was out of this world. Their spicy bacon cheddar burger. You could die. Not kidding. Oh, that was my weekend. Oh, rough. Rough. Did you see this item that said that the number of guns being confiscated at airplane TSA security, airport security sections, or you call those damn things, just keeps going up and up and up and up. And the weird thing is, and here's what somebody said, can you imagine, I don't know about you, but I can no more imagine having a gun in my purse and forgetting that I had a gun in my purse. Can you conceive of such a thing? But the fact is every time the TSA guys have found a gun in someone who's about to get on an airplane in this country, found a gun in their possession that they were attempting to carry on and carry through security, that is what they say. "Oh, gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot." How do you forget you've got a gun in your purse? Or a gun. And these guns are often loaded. In the last 7 days, ending on September 20th, the TSA in just 7 days caught 47 guns on people or in their carry-on baggage, 47 guns in 1 week, 38 of them loaded. In 1 week. And that doesn't even count that they also found in that 1 week period last month 3 inert hand grenades that were in people's carry-ons, black powder, timing fuses. What are people? And then people say, oh, geez, I forgot. Gee. Oh, I'm always carrying. Got so many guns, I lose track of where the heck they are. Loaded. The casualness with which, obviously, a whole bunch of our country folk deal with these deadly weapons. TSA says that the number of guns found at their checkpoints has just been steadily rising over the last few years. And security experts say, well, we think there's 2 things going on here. One, gun sales are way up. And they're spiking again, by the way, right now, right before the election. This is always what happens. Right before the election, whoever these people are who buy into he's going to take your guns away, they're already out there. They're storming the gun stores. And if Obama is reelected in a month, they will see an even steeper increase in the number of guns. The other thing that the safety experts think is going on with the fact that so many people are carrying guns and literally forgetting they're carrying them is the proliferation of the so-called right to carry laws that have been passed bang, 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 bang by these Republican-controlled legislatures all over the country. You know that there are states now where students can have guns in the dorms, can have guns in their classrooms. There are states where you could have guns in bars, guns in church, guns in hospitals. So, this is part of what happens once you make the ability to carry loaded weapons as ubiquitous as it has become in so many parts of the country. It becomes a casual thing. And I'm sure anybody who knows anything about firearm safety would tell you that the word casual should never, ever be in the same realm as the word gun. Nothing casual about having a gun should not be. And nothing casual about your state of mind when you are carrying a gun. But the TSA figures show something really rather disquieting, not surprising, just disquieting, that increasingly for Americans, having a loaded gun on you is as normal as, having underwear on. It's just part of what you put on as you face your day. And so, of course, even snaking your way through a TSA security line, where you bump into signs every once in a while say, make sure you do not have blah, 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 and you're told to take your shoes. How would you not at some point in that line say, oh my God, I got my gun? But they don't. By the thousands, they don't. Last year, 1,320 people stood in security lines with loaded weaponry and never occurred to them that that was something that wasn't going to get through security. Unbelievable. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that because I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. I find that stuff just disquieting. I really do. The people, it's so funny. You know, you can divide groups into two often, and certainly one way you could divide people into two groups is those who feel safer when there are a lot of guns around and those who feel less safe. And again, I believe that all the studies, all the stats show that the people who are more fearful, if there are lots of guns around, actually have reason. The people who are fearful, who feel safer when guns are around, are deluding themselves. The fact is they're less safe. But you can't tell them that. You can't, and you can't get through to them. So that's just the way it is. So I got to get a quick break in here, okay? And come back and talk. I'm steering a little clear of some of the political talk today just because, you know, heading into this last month is going to be pretty intense. And, of course, we've got the debate coming up on Wednesday night. So I'm giving myself a little bit of a break from the hand-wringing and general consternation and terror that is involved in thinking about our political future. So have a break on me.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Awesome Books and Political Salon Pittsburgh presents Tope Professor of Political Science at Barnard College and author of Great Games, Local Rules, The Great Power Contest in Central Asia, Dr. Alexander Cooley on Wednesday, October 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Admission is $15, which includes drinks, appetizers, networking, and great discussion. To register, visit www.worldpittsburgh.org or call 412-281-7970. Awesome Books is located at 929 Liberty Avenue, downtown Pittsburgh. There will also be a free presidential debate viewing party beginning at 9 p.m. Don't miss this great opportunity to share your views with others.
Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
If you love great indie movies, then it's time to get real. Real Q, that is. Real Q is the new name for the Pittsburgh International Lesbian and Gay Film Festival. This year, see movies with stars like Olympia Dukakis, Robert Gant, Meredith Baxter, and Pittsburgh's own Vanessa German. Real Q screens at the Harris Theater in downtown's magnificent cultural district from Friday, October 12th through Sunday, October 21st. For more information, log on to realq.org. That's REELQ.org. East Liberty is alive with new shops and fun things to do. The next time you're in the area, stop at Wear to Impress for its grand opening. Wear to Impress has many fashions for men that you won't find anywhere in Pittsburgh. They have jeans at 50% off, suits starting at $99, casual jackets at 60% off, big and tall sizes, and much more. Wear to Impress is located in the heart of East Liberty's business district at 6105 Penn Avenue. They're open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can reach them at 412-441-1150. Wear to Impress is your one-stop shop for the best of men's fashion needs. Come on in and ask for Fred. Awesome Books and Political Salon Pittsburgh presents Tope Professor of Political Science at Barnard College and author of Great Games, Local Rules, The Great Power Contest in Central Asia, Dr. Alexander Cooley on Wednesday, October 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Admission is $15, which includes drinks, appetizers, networking, and great discussion. To register, visit www.worldpittsburgh.org or call 412-281-7970. Awesome Books is located at 929 Liberty Avenue, downtown Pittsburgh. There will also be a free presidential debate viewing party beginning at 9 p.m. Don't miss this great opportunity to share your views with others.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Colette, Colette writes, what happens to these people who are carrying guns and hand grenades at airports? They should be subjected to full cavity searches. Maybe then they won't forget. That might help. What happens depends on where they are. If they're in a state that is one of these states that thinks everybody should have a gun, not much happens. Not much happens. If they're in New York City, if they're at LaGuardia Airport, they could well end up in jail. So it depends where you're at. Invariably, police do get called. The gun is confiscated. I'm not sure when. I don't know. It's amazing to me. But then I'm one of the people who don't get it. I don't get that having lots of guns around would make us all safer. It just strikes me as so absurd. I can't imagine any parent allowing their child to live in a dormitory in which kids are allowed to have guns. I can't imagine. The most unstable population, demographic you could find. 18 to 21-year-olds, right? I mean, and with the pressure of college, with possibly a girlfriend breaking up with them, have a little drink or two, get little nuts, and the next thing you know, you're shooting people. I don't understand how anybody could think that was smart. And I know there are teachers at some of the schools. I believe Utah is one of these states, and Colorado is one of these states, where professors have said, I can't teach if I think these students that I'm looking at have loaded guns. I feel, insecure. Can you imagine a kid coming up to a professor and saying, I thought that paper was an A. You gave me a C. And you can see that they've got a gun. Oh, yeah, okay, I think I'll give you an A. I mean, come on. It's just insane. I can't imagine that some of these professors wouldn't try to get the hell out of schools like this. Jesus. But anyway, what do I know? So you're seeing there's a book out now about how men, it's over for them. The women have taken over. The world does not require brawn anymore, which is all guys had to give in the first place. And it requires all the skills that women possess. Conciliation, listening skills, verbal skills, all of this kind of thing. And we're already seeing that in a lot of marriages, the women out-earn the men, so men's role as a breadwinner is under, attack. And this subject has come up on occasion here. And there was a really provocative piece written by a woman who I've interviewed a few times, Stephanie Kuntz, her name is. She's really smart. She is an expert in families, in family structures, and she's written a lot of amazing books herself. But she has had a very long piece in the Sunday New York Times in which she picks apart all of these articles and books that suggest that men are nearing endangered species status. And because I tend to buy into that a lot myself, the people who are saying men are becoming obsolete, I tend to buy that argument, I was very interested to read hers, and I wanted to pass it on in the interests of fair and balanced reportage. She asked a few pretty good questions right off the bat. Oh, so all of a sudden, women are the top, and all of these men are finished, and you'll have just a bunch of demoralized single men in the country, sort of taking refuge in perpetual adolescence. It conjures up a lot of those films out of Hollywood, all these sort of young men that in another age would have already been at work and having families, but instead acting, like they're 15 years old, and that's what a man looks like now. She says, yeah, but how is it then that men still control the most important industries, especially technology? They occupy most of the positions on the lists of the richest Americans. They continue to make more money than women who have the same skills, same education. And if men are how come women make up only 17% of the Congress? She suggests that what you're seeing with all of these books about it's over for men is a kind of cultural anxiety. And I think without a doubt that's true. It's an anxiety about what's happening. Things are changing so fast. There is an ongoing redistribution of power. And this is all a direct result, of course, of the women's movement. I want to note that today is, I believe, the 50th anniversary of the integration of the University of Mississippi, which caused federal troops to have to be deployed to that campus so that one black man, James Meredith, could walk in the door. His first class, ironically, American history. That was just 50 years ago. Think of all of the transitions that have been set off by the civil rights movement, by the women's movement, and now we see by the gay rights movement. And of course, there's this constant shifting of the ground under our feet, and that leads to cultural anxiety, a lot of hand-wringing. I would also suggest it leads to the kind of fear and anger that you hear in our political discourse, because none of our institutions are able to keep what's the word? Oh, I hate those things. Able to keep up. That's the word. It was a 2-letter word, up. They're not able to keep up with the constant change. Our legal system doesn't keep up. Our educational system is getting lost. Most of our social institutions. So, of course, the fact that women now have power creates extraordinary anxiety and extraordinary change. Here's an interesting little bit that I'd never seen it put this way. But this is a sociologist, a guy named Connell, who said that 50 years ago, 50 years ago today, James Meredith, with the help of 40,000 National Guardsmen, was able to walk into a university in the South, a black man walking in. That was just 50 years ago today. Well, 50 years ago, according to this sociologist, every man in America was entitled to, and I mean it was just given, to what this sociologist calls the patriarchal dividend. essentially the head start you got, the leg up you got from simply being born male. The patriarchal dividend. This was a lifelong affirmative action program for men. Stop and think about it. Men, think of all the professions that a woman couldn't even get her foot in the door. Almost every profession. Almost every profession. So just 50 years ago, men didn't have to even imagine having to compete with half the population, women. And that got taken away from them. That's huge. You wonder where all those angry white men came from? This is where they came from. They've lost their patriarchal dividend. They've lost their white guy dividend to a certain extent. Not totally, obviously, but to them, there's still been a diminishing of what they thought was their entitlement. They're angry. Gone are the days when men could just count on women being excluded. You forget how just 50 years ago, male privilege controlled so much, and now it's gone. A woman couldn't open a checking account if she was married in her own name. A woman couldn't have credit of her own. A married woman could not be raped. A married woman generally did not have any say about where she would live. You know, her husband was the breadwinner, and he made these decisions because he brought the bread in. That wasn't ancient history. That's our history. Why wouldn't this result in just unbelievable social change and upheaval? So back to Stephanie Coontz. She says the curtailment of these male entitlements and the expansion of women's legal and economic rights have absolutely transformed America in 50 years. But let's not kid ourselves. They haven't produced a matriarchy. And she argues that actually, the way she looks at it, she thinks the progress of women has stalled in the last 15 years. And she has a lot of numbers and graphs to show that there was this initial shooting up of women, and now there is this leveling off. And the leveling off is occurring short of the top. Women now make up almost 40% of full-time workers in management. But the average wage of a female manager is just 73% of what the male manager is making. Only 4% of the CEOs in the Fortune's top 1,000 companies are female. 4% of the 1,000. This is no matriarchy. And this is something I've always known. Studies show that as occupations gain a higher percentage of female workers, the pay for those jobs goes down. Anytime a profession becomes dominated by females, it loses value. It loses status. The opposite is true when men come in. Here's a few more numbers. Female MBAs are paid an average $5,000 less than men in starting salaries. And even if they don't get married, even if they remain childless and are just, nose to the grindstone, generally speaking, they're not going to make as much as a man. The gender gap in educational achievement is a very real thing. And girls have long done better in school than boys. And women now have pulled ahead of men in college. And more women graduate from college. But at all income levels, women remain concentrated in this sort of female ghetto jobs. So despite earning higher grades, women invariably seem to be educating themselves for lower paying positions. The ascent of women in this country has been greatly exaggerated. It does exist. God knows. Or you wouldn't have all those angry white guys out there. But she says the myth of male decline is just that. Men don't face the same discriminatory laws as women did 50 years ago. They do face, she thinks, an equally restrictive kind of gender mystique. And she thinks the men that are being held back are men who have a very retro sense of what manliness is. Those are the angry men. A sense that their masculinity depends on them making certain amounts. Those are the guys that aren't adjusting well to the change. Just as women who display masculine ambitions or behaviors on the job are often penalized, so are men who engage in traditionally female behaviors like prioritizing family involvement. Men who take an active role in childcare and housework at home are more likely, frankly, not to be as high up at work, and they're more likely to be harassed at work by other men. So I'm telling you, all that's happening, everybody should just calm down, is that change is constant. Change is happening at a pace with which we can't catch up. And that unsettled feeling you have ain't going away. My guess is we got to learn just to keep our balance and keep our sense of humor and keep our fear intact. Because we're on a roller coaster ride, and you can't jump out because you'll die. So just hang on. And the people that are terrified are people who invariably make wrong choices. And I give you the Republicans. They're scared. They so want things to be like they were. They so want things to be like they were. And they're actively trying to pull back. And I'm telling you, that's a fool's errand. There's no going back. Pandora's out. It's all over. And technology has changed the game completely. It will decide which direction we're going. And it only sees one direction. And that's full speed ahead. Ahead to what? We could argue. But stopping it? Better to figure out how to keep your balance, my guess. Got to take a break.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Awesome Books and Political Salon Pittsburgh presents Tope Professor of Political Science at Barnard College and author of Great Games, Local Rules, The Great Power Contest in Central Asia, Dr. Alexander Cooley on Wednesday, October 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Admission is $15, which includes drinks, appetizers, networking, and great discussion. To register, visit www.worldpittsburgh.org or call 412-281-7970. Awesome Books is located at 929 Liberty Avenue, downtown Pittsburgh. There will also be a free presidential debate viewing party beginning at 9 p.m. Don't miss this great opportunity to share your views with others.
Hey, speaking of awesome books, you got to be able to read them. And there are a whole bunch of people who really can't. Maybe they read a little, but reading is no pleasure to them because they struggle. So there's the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council, and many of these people have come there, understandably. And they've signed up to be tutored one-on-one so that they can finally read. And they've been told, I'm sorry, you're on a waiting list. We don't have enough tutors. So I'm sharing that information with you in the hopes that you might consider becoming one. They teach you how to tutor. And you're set up with one person. All they ask is 4 hours a week you get together with that person and help give them that gift. This is a wonderful thing to do. As you know, Tom Sokolowski has stepped up. And I'm so proud of him for it. Says something about him, too. Say something about you if you choose to do this. This is how the world gets a little better, little by little. So think about calling the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council at 412-393-7600. Check them out on the internet, if you like, at gplc.org.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, City Theater, History Museum, Carnegie Museums, and some of the best restaurants in Pittsburgh. This week, get 40% off gift cards to the Harris Grill and Shadyside. bergbargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. bergbargains.com.
Awesome Books and Political Salon Pittsburgh presents Tope Professor of Political Science at Barnard College and author of Great Games, Local Rules, The Great Power Contest in Central Asia, Dr. Alexander Cooley on Wednesday, October 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Admission is $15, which includes drinks, appetizers, networking, and great discussion. To register, visit www.worldpittsburgh.org or call 412-281-7970. Awesome Books is located at 929 Liberty Avenue, downtown Pittsburgh. There will also be a free presidential debate viewing party beginning at 9 p.m. Don't miss this great opportunity to share your views with others.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay, back to this show, but nothing in particular. When I was in Amsterdam, when was that? Summer or so ago? Year and a half ago, maybe. One of the things that blew me away was how most people seem to get around on bicycles. Most people. And the roads and sidewalks and everything was laid out so that the bikes seemed to have pretty much were considered the people you yielded for more than, cars yielded to them, pedestrians yielded to them. I was sort of astonished by it. And the other thing that blew me away about the bikes in Amsterdam were that they weren't like the bikes here. They were, the bikes here where you have those little teeny seats, like I think of them as thongs, those horrible hard thong seats, and then the handlebars low so that you're bent over with this thing sticking up your butt. I hate those things. They are so uncomfortable. The Amsterdam, and generally in Europe and European cities, you see, are like the good old bikes you had when you were a kid. Handlebars high, you're sitting up straight. Exactly like the Wicked Witch when she's bicycling in the cyclone. So, tornado, I know. I came back, and also, no helmets. Did not see a helmet. Did not see anybody wearing a helmet. And I'm sorry, you got to ask yourself, Are they out of their minds or are we out of our minds? Something here doesn't compute. Now, I came back and I talked about this, and oh my God, I was told in no uncertain terms that they're out of their minds. But I have to tell you that I don't think that's true, and I was thrilled to see something that buttresses my case. It turns out that when you try to encourage people to ride a bike, and even in terms of like public health or public transportation, all of these reasons why it'd be a good idea to get people on bicycles, a lot of municipalities, including our own, are creating bike lanes, bike paths, all of this to encourage us to bike. Also, there are cities where you can register and you can pick up a bike anywhere. The city provides them at various locations. You pick up a bike, you ride it to another point, and you drop the bike there. This kind of bike sharing systems, they're all over Europe. New York City is instituting one. It's not going to happen until next year. They're working out all the wrinkles. It takes a lot of doing to create these. But the benefits are obvious. They're amazing. It reduces vehicle traffic. It reduces carbon emissions from that vehicle traffic. It also means that the people on these bikes are getting exercise. But here's an interesting fact. When you look at where these programs work and then where they don't, because they have been set up in some places and they don't really go. Other places, people take to it like ducks to water. The difference is the successful bike programs around the world, whether it's Paris, Amsterdam, Barcelona, China, is that almost no one is wearing a helmet. And there is no pressure whatsoever to do so. And there's certainly no legal imperative to do so. So here in the United States, if you see somebody on a bike and they aren't wearing a helmet, what's your reaction? Why, that irresponsible, idiotic so-and-so. Setting a bad example for the kids. And what is he, some kind of an idiot? I mean, you look at people who don't have helmets on when they're riding a bike the same way you look at people smoking. Right? Same thing. Idiot! European health experts say that, yes, there are studies that show if you have a terrible spill on a bike at a certain speed and hit your head in a certain way, a helmet will reduce your risk of serious injury or death. Yes, that is true. But then if you factor in how often accidents like that happen, the risk factors start really coming down. If you force, what they found is if you force or pressure people to wear helmets, you end up actually discouraging them from riding a bike. I know this to be true because it discourages me. A lot of people won't bike because they think they can only bike if they wear a helmet. Now, the health officials in Europe say, okay, so you discourage people from biking. You don't think you're doing that, but you are. That is the effect. And that means that, okay, you're saving them perhaps from, they're not going to be biking without a helmet and have some terrible head injury. But they're not going to be biking. And they're not going to get the cardiovascular system up and running. They the fewer bikes there are, the less chance there is of establishing a really strong bike sharing program. They say it's the safest biking cities are places like Amsterdam and Copenhagen, where everybody is riding and no one has a helmet on. Here's a professor, Australian professor. Pushing helmets really kills cycling, and it really kills bike sharing because it promotes a sense of danger that just isn't justified. What is it about us, Americans? What is it that something that should be so free and wonderful becomes something that's dangerous? You have to have a helmet on. I mean, I'm thinking all you have to do is look at our children and look at their mamby-pamby playgrounds now. We're such weenies. And this professor says, okay, statistically, if you want to look at the statistics and how many people's lives have been saved with bike helmets, fine. But statistically, if we wear helmets for cycling, then quite frankly, we should mandate that people wear helmets when they get into a bathtub. Because, in fact, more Americans die of head injuries in a bathtub. More die from falling off ladders. Should you wear a helmet climbing a ladder? We're very, very capricious in what we decide all of a sudden we have to safeguard ourselves from. A 2-year-old bike sharing program in Melbourne where helmet use is mandatory has not worked. They get only about 150 rides a day average. And that's in a city that's relatively flat, easy to ride in. Move to Dublin, Ireland, where it's a little up and downy and there's cobblestone streets and it's not that pleasant to ride. They've got a ride share. They have more than 5,000 daily rides in their bike sharing scheme. Nobody's wearing a helmet. If you have to have helmets, how can you just jump on a bike? You're going to go through your life just carrying a helmet with you? Or if these places are going to have helmets, do you want to put something on your head that some sweaty person just took off theirs? No. It creates a lot of trouble. Michael Bloomberg, mayor of New York, has rejected all the calls by the, scaredy cats saying that there had to be mandatory helmet laws on their New York's new bike sharing system. He said no. People want to ride, they can ride. If they want to ride with a helmet, they can ride with a helmet. Their choice. Yes. I hate this scaredy cat world where we actually pretend that we can secure ourselves. I hate it. If you want to encourage biking, let people's hair blow in the wind. I'm taking a break.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for the Stanley Clark Trio, Streb, Matthew Morrison, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Awesome Books and Political Salon Pittsburgh presents Tope Professor of Political Science at Barnard College and author of Great Games, Local Rules, The Great Power Contest in Central Asia, Dr. Alexander Cooley on Wednesday, October 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Admission is $15, which includes drinks, appetizers, networking, and great discussion. To register, visit www.worldpittsburgh.org or call 412-281-7970. Awesome Books is located at 929 Liberty Avenue in downtown Pittsburgh. There will also be a free presidential debate viewing party beginning at 9 p.m. Don't miss this great opportunity to share your views with others.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, I know it's been a sort of an odd show, and it's about to become a little odder. Again, I'm going to ask you to forgive me for disappearing on you, but I am not going to be here tomorrow or Wednesday. Be back on Thursday with Chris Potter joining me to we'll be talking about the first presidential debate. I'll want to pick his brain, too, about this unhappy news about the Highmark and Allegheny General West Penn deal falling through, and the impact on health care in the city if all that's really left standing is, as you know, the behemoth known as UPMC. So those are the subjects coming up on Thursday. Let me tell you why I'm going. I have to go to Green Bay. You can't get to Green Bay anymore. No airline. I cannot fly from this city to anywhere in the state of Wisconsin. Anywhere, directly. I can't. And indirectly, stopping here, there, and yon, the connections are impossible. The prices are beyond belief. The service sucks in every way. So anyway, I'm normally not. Unfortunately, there's no way I could get to Green Bay by 5:30 p.m. tomorrow when I have to be there and still do the show tomorrow. So I gotta take tomorrow's show off, and then there's no way I can get back in time for Wednesday's show. So I literally be in Green Bay for about 18 hours, and yet I will miss 2 days of work. And the 18 hours includes maybe 6 hours sleeping. I mean, I actually won't even be 18 hours. And the cost of this trip is unbelievable, and I hate the airlines. I cannot stand them. I don't know how anybody gets around. I don't know how it works. And I'm going to be on American, which is considered, like, right now, like the worst. This is the one where the pilots are slowing things down. Anyway, I'm sorry. So I quickly, though, want to tell you why I'm going. I'm going to be with my mother at the dedication of the Peace and Justice Center at a beautiful college in Green Bay, St. Norbert College. And the Peace and Justice Center there is going to be rededicated tomorrow evening as the Norman Miller Peace and Justice Center, Norman Miller being my wonderful father. And so I want to be there to stand with my mom. Susan is going to be there as well. My father, I think, would be proud. He was an amazing man who, from the time he was a kid, cared exactly about those two things, peace and justice. It informed everything that he did. So to grow up in his house was to just be constantly reminded of our obligation to pursue peace and justice. He was a serious, even as a kid. He was orphaned. He went off to college as an orphan. He had been orphaned at the age of 17, 18. And he goes off to Northwestern University on his own. And the engineering school there had just received a huge, huge, huge grant. And they were going to rebuild it. There was a caveat, though, on this, the rich guy who gave it, that no Jews were to be allowed to be in the engineering department. My father, this little pipsqueak freshman out of Green Bay, orphaned, saw that and was outraged. He went to see the president of the university, somehow got in to see him, expressed his astonishment and displeasure, and I'm sure in a very polite voice. And this president essentially threw him out the door. That did not stop my father. He immediately then started organizing a campus-wide symposia that was called Better Understanding Week. And this sweet, naive young man put together this huge event in which the students were challenged to think about that grant, challenged to think about other things. He traveled to Washington, D.C. to talk to the two Jewish justices, Felix Frankfurter and Louis Brandeis. He did get in to see both of them. Who would think you could go? He thought, I'll go talk to these two and tell them what's happening here and see if they can't help. They sort of patted him on the head. He continued on. He went to see a guy named Ralph Bunche, black man, who in 1950 would end up being the first black man to win the Nobel Peace Prize for attempting to mediate between Israel and the Palestinians. My dad talked to Ralph Bunche, a kid. He always, from his days as a young person on, that's what he worked. He built bridges between people. He endowed a lectureship at this school that has free lectures every year, some years, where he brought in Elie Wiesel, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Arthur Schlesinger, David Halberstam, Morris Deese of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Amazing people. And the lecture's always free to the public. He was an extraordinary man. I am so blessed to be his daughter. Blessed to be his daughter. And that's why I'm not going to be here tomorrow, because I want to stand there and represent my love and my admiration for my dad. When Vince Lombardi complained to him that he was having trouble recruiting black players because they couldn't find a place to live in all-white Green Bay, Wisconsin. My father, along with another man, he went to another businessman there, worked with Lombardi to help create an open housing ordinance to stop that problem. Got the first one through. Endlessly working to bring people together, peace and justice. Norman Miller, my wonderful dad, a wonderful human being. And so I ain't going to be here tomorrow and Wednesday. I'll be back on Thursday, and as I said, there'll be plenty to talk about. Have a great one or two, even three maybe.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.